All right, earlier this month, Nigeria's military high command got bad news. One of the country's finest soldiers, who has been referred to as the army's most efficient fighter, Muhammad Abu Ali, died in battle.
He was also described as Sarkin Yaki, that's the chief warrior. Now, the lieutenant colonel was killed alongside 5 other officers. Although the incident is being investigated, there are unconfirmed reports his team was ambushed by insurgents with insider knowledge. Let's take you back to this report by defense correspondent Sifon Essien.
Top security officers and senior media practitioners converge on the Nigerian Army Resource Center in Abuja for a seminar on Boko Haram insurgency in Nigeria. But the mood here is somber. That's because the military officers are mourning the gruesome murder of Lieutenant Colonel Muhammad Abu Ali and 6 others by insurgents. They were killed November the 4th when insurgents attacked the 119 battalion located at Malam-Fatori, Borno State. Lieutenant Colonel Abu Ali, who was a commanding officer of 272 Task Force Tank Battalion until his death, was fondly called Sarkin Yaki in Hausa, which loosely translates as Lord of War. This was due to his doggedness and commitment in recapturing Nigerian territories from Boko Haram. His most prized weapon was his tank, which he drove in the vanguard of all the operations he was deployed to. The late officer's bravery prompted an acceleration of his promotion to the rank of Lieutenant Colonel. He was decorated by the Chief of Army Staff at Gamboru Ngala on September 9, 2015. The Nigerian Army grapples with the death of the young officer regarded as Boko Haram's nemesis.
His loss, we will say, is a challenge to all of us to really reflect, to understand that we are really in a situation where we need to ensure that the fight against the insurgency receive total support. This loss cannot go in vain. We must ensure that we make our country safe.
For Lieutenant Colonel Abu Ali, it's an end to a trail of victories, a career in the army, and a life on earth. Sifon Essien, TVC News, Abuja.
Oh, wow. When your own peers celebrate you like that, it says a lot.
It tells so much because the kind of person he is and the acceptance the people have around him goes along with to tell the kind of the position he occupies in this circle. All right, that's the background to things. Joining us on set now is a retired colonel of the Nigerian Army, Hassan Labo. It's good to have you join us right now. Good morning.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. All right, now, when anyone dies, it's usually a sad event. But give us a picture of when a soldier dies in battle. Back within the military ranks, what goes on? How do they handle that situation?
We mustn't forget that soldiers are also human beings. Okay. When you lose a single soldier or officer, it tells on the entire body of troops. But like it is, since you are still busy in the business of war, fighting, you really don't have so much time in trying to mourn or whatever, because there is still a lot ahead. If you are not on your guard, you will soon join him. That is not to mean that the men don't really feel the pinch, okay? But I mean, let me leave it at that. Maybe subsequent questions.
Indeed, and being on their guard, that's what we heard, that this gallant officer, a man who's been described as Sarkin Yaki, I mean, I could, say it over and over again, chief warrior, exactly what he told his, soldiers to be on guard in the war front, that if anybody should go down, it should be him. That says a lot. That says a lot. But we'll, get into all of that when we come back from this break. Stay with us. Okay, to our first big story this morning, looking at the fall of a gallant soldier. And, you know, against this backdrop, we're looking at how Nigeria and Nigerians indeed, you know, honor their fallen soldiers in the battle front. And our guest in the studio is Colonel Hassan Labo, a retired colonel himself, talking to us about this. The question I, asked you earlier, and pointing to the selflessness of this gallant soldier on the battlefield, who always told his soldiers, to be prayerful and be vigilant, and that if anybody was going to, fall by the bullets, it should be him. Does that say something about, great Nigerians that are out there that nobody seems to be celebrating? What does it say about this gallant soldier?
Frankly, I must tell you, there are lots of soldiers and maybe a few officers that have merely performed to this extent, but they are just unsung. And the nation does not really know them to talk of any recognition given to them. I'm talking about commitment, the way the fallen hero Colonel Abu Ali has displayed. There are lots of soldiers and maybe a few officers that have merely performed to this extent, but they are just unsung. And the nation does not really know them to talk of any recognition given to them. I'm talking about commitment, the way the fallen hero Colonel Abu Ali has displayed. And from those comments those comments of his, which you just played out now,
Yes.
that shows you how exemplary he was. Okay, this is a commanding officer who will lead an operation. I mean, lead a patrol team. A patrol team can be led by a junior officer, a second lieutenant, a lieutenant, even a sergeant, a senior NCO. But by the time you see the commanding officer of a unit himself leading a patrol team, there is something special about that officer. And of course, this is not the first time. He was just decorated Lieutenant Colonel not too long.
Yes, a recipient of the Chief of Army Staff Award.
It has been there. He had already become noted even before this incident, And it's really a big blow to the nation, not to even talk of the army itself. It's not easy finding people like this who actually stand out of the pack. Okay, we had a few in Liberia and Sierra Leone too. When you are docking, they are standing up with GMG alone and directing affairs, in the battlefront. But may his soul rest in peace.
Yes, and
Certainly.
the souls of the others who fell alongside
him.
Yeah.
All right, we remember when we read about the Nigerian exploits in Congo, in Liberia, Sierra Leone, and all of that, how Nigerian operation made a lot of contribution to ensuring things normalized. Now, these are heroes. When we come back to the country, let us focus more now on the main issue why we're even here in the first place. What is supposed to be the ideals? Let us understand that before we even get to whether we met the ideals or not. When it comes to the honoring soldiers who actually contributed to normalizing things or facing the hydra-headed monsters of insurgency and all of that.
Let's categorize it. Fallen heroes or those just returning from the battlefront.
Okay. What's the difference?
Which one? Of course, fallen heroes are those who are fallen, those who lost their lives in the course of operations, like Colonel Ali, all right? And then those returning from operations, like those of us who were in Liberia, Sierra Leone, and so on, returning back, having done your country proud outside. For returnees, my brother, I can tell you this country has nothing for you. You are just sneaked into your barracks and life goes on. At best, you are addressed by a general officer commanding, you are addressed by the Chief of Army Staff, where he tells you, thank you, well done for serving your nation. But that is where it ends. The Nigerian nation does not in any way improve you economically or even in terms of motivation. I'm speaking out now because those still in uniform cannot speak out this way. I'm out of uniform. Whatever I'm craving that should be done to them does not really affect me in any way. So it's just good that we take time off this way and discuss some of these things so that those in authority might be reminded that, look, we need to be doing something for these boys.
But why is it like that? Has it always been the norm in Nigeria that we don't, honor soldiers, whether the fallen ones or even the returnees, you know, that you say they just go back quietly to the barracks and that's it. The president has said the labor of these soldiers, you know, will not be in vain. Okay. Talk to us about how it has always been, or what really should be the ideal.
Well, like it is, I don't know whether to say this is the Nigerian mentality as far as this situation is concerned, or it is the mentality of the average politician who thinks only of himself and not the people. Okay? Otherwise, if they were actually busy in the House of Assembly thinking about the people, I think the
But
Army
even
Act,
before the politicians came on board, I mean, it's always been said that the military, the Nigerian soldier didn't fare well even under the military government.
Yes, that is why I'm referring to the politicians, where now we assume we are in a democratic dispensation. Under the military, anything could go on. A one-man's wish covers everybody. But under a democracy, why is my rep not speaking for me in the House? Why is my senator not speaking for me in the House? How much presentation has Colonel Ali's senator or House of Rep member done to the House towards improving the lot of his dependents? Thank God he's from even a well-to-do family.
Yes.
So the dad was a
Brigadier General
he's a retired general and so on. What if that lieutenant colonel were to be my type from a very humble background? This is the point we're making. Under a democratic dispensation, some of these things should be looked into. But like I said, we are too selfish. Is it this present House we're talking about? And so on. Let's not get distracted in terms of the discussions.
All right. Now, we certainly see the French forces, British forces, European forces in Africa, in Somalia, in Congo, in Sierra Leone, in Central African Republic, and all of that doing, even in Mali and so on. When they return home, what kind of reception do they return to, and what kind of incentives are they given to motivate them, or to say congratulations or thank you for flying the flag of our country and doing well?
Right from the airport, you as a soldier will know that, yes, I think my country appreciates me. I use the word sneaked. We are often being sneaked in and sneaked into your barracks. At times your flight touches down by 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. and the 911s are all there and they sweep you into the barracks. I use the word 9/11. There's no appreciation from your country. None. None. Nothing really makes you say, yes, I think I really want to die for my country. Nothing.
So profound.
All things that come to you are your entitlements. I want some people sitting out there not say, but what of this, what of this? Those are his entitlements. Things which he resolved with you before taking on the employment. His gratuity. Is that not an entitlement? You promised him the Nigerian Army Welfare Insurance Scheme. Is that not an entitlement? You went into a life insurance for him in case he dies. Is that not an entitlement? We could go on and on and on. Maximum of 4 scholarships for his children from primary to university level. Those are entitlements, not honor. We should not mix them up. Having attained all this, what is the honor you now have for him? The present Chief of Army Staff has really done something which we are all appreciating. He has, I don't want to use the word lavish, but he has really used the posthumous award window very effectively in motivating troops. Okay? Promoting officers and men once they become fallen heroes. Even before you become fallen heroes, those even in the field who die, once you have been noted, a posthumous promotion comes to you and things like that. But is that where we should stop? Can't you be thinking about a Hall of Fame or a Wall of Fame, depending on which? Okay? For all these fallen heroes, where their names will be inscribed on, and on such special days as Army Day and Remembrance Day and so on, visitors will come there and read about these heroes and say, wow, By now, some of us will probably be reading about our fathers who died in Burma or in India and so on. These were Nigerians. But there is nothing to show today. The only indication is that I was the only one from my family that came to the army. Last couple, Stanislaus Labo, there's no inscription there, even though he was a fallen hero in Burma. Things like that.
And the fact that, you have a relative, maybe your father, who fell in battle, in battle, did not discourage you from going into the military.
Sure. Why not?
We'll talk even more about that. Okay, it's time to go out on TVC Entertainment, but viewers there can continue to watch the show on TVC Nigeria on Concert Channel 190, DSTV 418.
You can also follow on GoTV Channel 45 and ACTV 510. So switch on and let's get on with this discussion.
One soldier lost, it's a pain to all of us. Every one citizen lost, it's pain to all of us. We must understand that when somebody dies out, it's part of us, it's part of humanity.
The most recent tragedy was so touching when you saw the unveiling of the character of Lieutenant Colonel Abu Ali, who led the rest of his team in such gallantry effort at securing country and people. It became very clear that we needed to get even much more of the wider Nigerian society engaged in the matter of recognizing the kind of sacrifice that our soldiers make for us.
All right, members of the Bring Back Our Girls movement at a sit-out in Abuja talking about fallen heroes and the need for every Nigerian to get involved in honoring them. Now, we have been talking about honoring fallen heroes in Nigeria, those who have made contributions to restoring the peace and normalcy in the northeast of Nigeria. We have in the studio discussing this Colonel Hassan Labo, retired colonel of the Nigerian Army. All right, Colonel, let's come to this now. You have given us a picture of what the government hasn't been doing over time, but what impact have that gotten on the morale of soldiers? Because soldiers, they know these things. They know, okay, like you are saying now, an average soldier knows that, okay, even if we go out there, coming back, we might not necessarily be honored. That's the norm here, as the case may be. But what impact is that having on their morale?
As a human being, ordinarily, it would demotivate you, okay? Demoralize you, and so on. But the funniest thing about the Nigerian is his resilience. Sometimes, as an officer, I look at our troops and I say, look, we are blessed in this country, but we don't know. Despite all the hardship they go through, despite the lack of recognition, you see the average Nigerian being so proud that he's wearing his uniform and is flying the Nigerian flag. Frankly speaking. So if we think it does not demotivate, it does, but the man's resilience comes
rises above it.
Above it, and he damns every consequence and forges on and does his job the way it should be done,
And I'm just wondering, what is it about the military that attracts any young man or woman? In the US, for example, they have all kinds of incentives, free tuition, scholarship and all of that, What is it that attracts a man like you, for example? I mean, you have a relative who fell, in the theater of war, and you still joined the military.
Sometimes I want to question this impression people sell around that, look, for lack of employment, Nigerians are joining the military. Even those who did join for lack of employment, I think along the line, got caught by, do I say, the fever, okay? And before you know what, they are already soaked in. And they forget their past and they are real soldiers. If I joined the army at the age of 13, through the Nigerian Military School in Zaria,
Wow.
where you read your secondary education and you're already a soldier with an army number and everything, full-fledged soldiers. I wouldn't have said I came into the army because I was looking for employment. I think if there was anything that impressed me, I would say the starched khaki, the decisiveness in the way they speak, and things like that.
Yes.
It makes me want to really be a soldier. And in those days, in Kaduna, they jog around the entire city. I think that was towards the Civil War days, because I came in 74 into the army. So way back 70, 71, you see soldiers jogging all over the town, screaming, you know, and those were the things that really made some of us say, look, I like to be here. And things like that. With such simple attractions, some of us came into the military, loved the military, did our best. Along the line, some of us were very outspoken about the conditions of service and some other things. But you did these things in some level of, do I say proportion, or cautiously. Because if you go beyond that, you will be
court-martialed or something?
No, it's not get to
okay, doesn't get to that. But, you see, bloody civilian.
So that is that. You couldn't really speak out your mind because your loyalty must be total. You must be seen to be completely committed and loyal to the commander-in-chief. So nothing that will be injurious to that office should be said. You can only murmur it.
All right, but we understand that certainly regimentation of the system is necessary to keep discipline and keeping everyone intact. But does that come with depriving soldiers of certain things and you can't voice out? Where is the right of the, because you said earlier on that we are human, soldiers are also human beings. So how do you express your right? What's the right of the soldier when your welfare is not guaranteed, you don't have access to what you're supposed to, your entitlements?
We have what we call DOBA at the unit level. You know, at the DOBA sessions, your commanding officer is normally there to chair the DOBA, and you are allowed to say whatever you want to say at the DOBA session. It is minuted. Eventually, the commanding officer gets these things well articulated and then passed forward now to the brigade headquarters, the chief headquarters, and so on. And I think at the end of the day, those that should be passed on to the political strategic level for interpretation gets to them. But at the end of the day, like I did say, what improvement actually comes in? Most of the improvement that comes in are the ones which are within the ambit of the commanding officer, which he can immediately address, or your brigade commander or the GOC. In most cases, after that level,
that's it.
Your commander cannot increase your salary.
Okay. Just hold on that thought. It's really interesting to get to know the workings within the Nigerian military, but let's shed some more light for you. Nigeria has quite a number of fallen heroes in recent times. According to the Nigeria Security Tracker, 574 soldiers died in the war against Boko Haram in the 2 years from 2012 to 2014. And in the same period, nearly 100 soldiers went missing in action, or MIA, and are unaccounted for.
This year alone, the country has lost more than 100 soldiers, going by official press releases and interviews with soldiers. Now, a number of them in the last months of the year. On August 7, 11 soldiers were killed in Boso in Niger State by bandits. On September 25, 4 were killed in an ambush along Bama-Banki Road in Borno State. A day later, another 4 were killed in Maiduguri.
And after an attack on troops at Gashigar, Borno State on October 16, more than 80 soldiers were reported missing. And just this month, no fewer than 9 soldiers have been killed in different attacks in the northeast, 6 in Malam Fatori, 2 in Kwaga, and another in Kangarwa. Nigerian soldiers have been some of the most gallant in the world from 1960, when the country first provided UN peacekeepers to the Congo. Nigeria has been an active participant in U.S. peacekeeping missions, deploying troops, police, military observers, staff officers, and advisors to more than 25 missions.
Nigeria is currently one of the largest UN contributing countries, with military and civilian personnel deployed in 10 UN peacekeeping operations and the African Union mission in Somalia. Backtracking now, the country played a prominent role in the ECOWAS-backed peacekeeping mission in Liberia from the late 80s to the late 90s, leading the regional body's monitoring group ECOMOG. Certainly, Colonel Labo was one of those. Nigerian soldiers also trained peacekeeping teams for Sierra Leone.
And during the peak of the Liberian and Sierra Leonean civil wars, Nigeria provided more than 70% of ECOMOG's military and civilian personnel, as well as logistical support. An estimated $8 billion was expended in peace operations in Ivory Coast, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Mali, and Sierra Leone. And the country has paid dearly for all that peacekeeping effort. And the question I would want to ask at this point is, Colonel Labo, all of the expenses, I mean, $8 billion at some point there, that Nigeria has paid, not just in terms of money, but in terms of the lives that have been lost in the cause of, trying to defend, whether it's Nigeria or other countries like Liberia. Has it been worth it, looking at it holistically?
Thank you for asking this question, and for also, I would say, referring to the human capital that we seem to have lost. We have not really coordinated our foreign policy very well. Otherwise, there would have been far more gains in all this. If there is any institution I would say that probably has gained from it, it is the army. When I say the army, I'm referring to the entire military now, the Navy, the Air Force, and so. By virtue of the enhancement it brought to play professionally on us, making us a battle-tested military and so on, who gives you a big edge over your neighbors and so on. After that, I don't see any other gain, and I will tell you why. For all the period we spent in Liberia or in Sierra Leone, we were importing things like gari, bread, and so on from Nigeria because it was a war-torn zone. There was no place to farm it. I thought that could have been the beginning of some serious trade relationship between Nigeria and these countries, where our Igbo brothers will be doing their gari and moving it into these countries. And by now, I think we could have been feeding Liberia and Sierra Leone. We didn't exploit that window of opportunity. That's why I'm saying that we didn't coordinate our foreign policies very well in such a way. If it were the Americans, my God, look at all the countries where they have operated on. They don't just throw their troops there anyhow for whatever. The troops go as the initial contact. They come in for trade and all the rest. We have not exploited all this. All we do is just, do I say share heroism? We move in there, do the job actually which we are supposed to do, and pull out. Then some other individuals from other countries begin to pick all the opportunities we ought to have picked. As at this period, I believe we had embassies in these countries with an ambassador. What was the ambassador doing? He could not reach out to all these people supplying us bread, supplying us gari, bringing yam from Nigeria, and coordinate it in such a way that even when the operations are over, since it was just a war-torn zone that was just coming out of we keep the supplies on.
So military engagement should translate in other
into
benefits
into
for the
economic
country.
gains.
Okay.
Into economic gains. But today, frankly, nothing like that. And when some of us look at it, we say, look, then meaning we just went to waste our lives in these places. What are the gains there?
Okay, we'll come back to this.
There.
Yeah, but let's go on a break, and then when we come back, we have still more information to roll out to you. Stay with us on TVC Breakfast.
He's a gentleman, nice and loving, and a caring father to his kids too. My plan is to stand by my kids and take care of my kids and bring them up the way he wanted to bring them up. They are aware, they know that their dad is gone.
Soldiers are everywhere. There should be rotation. Not just a set of people is supposed to fight the war. My brother has been there in Maiduguri for 2 years, and I think the maximum they gave him was 2 weeks. I pray the government does something to bring an end to Boko Haram, so we don't continue to lose young and vibrant soldiers too.
As a wife and sister of late Colonel Muhammad Abu Ali and the National Coordinator of Fallen Heroes Project. Okay, now, you know, when you watch excerpts like this,
it brings it home.
It drives in that feeling, that strong feeling of losing someone and losing someone very vital to the
It's
fight
not
against
just
Boko
a number.
Haram.
When you say 111 soldiers died, you know, one gallant soldier dies.
This translates
really
to the real
puts
thing.
a face to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, Colonel, let's come to this. If we have to narrow it down to Muhammad Ali and the others, Abu Ali and the others who died, how best should they be honored, knowing how vital they were in the fight against Boko Haram?
First and foremost, I would want to recommend posthumous promotion. Secondly, I would want to talk about the need for certain provisions for the families.
Exactly.
Especially accommodation. For this gentleman, we know the family is well off, they could provide, but we are talking of the least soldier now. In most cases, you agree with me that their salaries up to at the point they become fallen heroes might not have been able to avail them property, accommodation, living accommodation. So I expect that their families or the country avails such families or dependents a living accommodation. It doesn't cost much for us. Then our national awards, these are the people who should be given national awards and not the politicians who are busy looting our treasury and ex-convicts. We should know where to place our priorities. Okay? I have talked the other time about the Hall of Fame and things like that. You know, it is important. When we sit down, we articulate most of these things, we'll be able to come up with so much little things here and there that could actually honor the soldier. We talked about their arrival from mission or from operations. The amount of welcome arrangements you put in place makes the man feel proud. A living accommodation, it doesn't cost much for us. Then our national awards, these are the people who should be given national awards and not the politicians who are busy looting our treasury and ex-convicts. We should know where to place our priorities. Okay? I have talked the other time about the Hall of Fame and things like that. You know, it is important. When we sit down, we articulate most of these things, we'll be able to come up with so much little things here and there that could actually honor the soldier. We talked about their arrival from mission or from operations. The amount of welcome arrangements you put in place makes the man feel proud.
And he's ready to go again.
And he's ready to go again.
As soon as you give the instruction.
Lots of things we can put together.
Yes, and finally, because we don't have time any further to talk about this, in terms of training, you know, one gets the impression that a lot is invested in, you know, training a Nigerian soldier.
Yeah.
When you talk about places like Sandhurst, you know, India, and all kinds of places where they're taken to training, does Nigeria really maximize the training that it invests in the soldiers?
Yes, I think we do.
Okay.
We do. And besides the fact that we do to show the seriousness, we have replicated some of these schools abroad, back home here. Yeah. You would agree with me, in the 60s or early 60s, nearly all our officers were trained abroad.
Yeah.
Today, we have the Defense Academy, which has even become a university, very sound institution, one of the best around, you know, and we're even beginning to, I think, training of foreign personnel in Jaji and so on. Training-wise, I think the Army isn't doing badly. More so with the type of leadership we have today in the military and at the helm of affairs politically, Mr. President. We have not taken training lightly at all, because that is the backbone of every army. You must keep the troops busy in peacetime. And the best way of keeping the troops busy is engaging them in training. So we train and retrain. Okay.
Okay, because I know that in other parts of the world, you know, soldiers actually build the rail tracks and all of those. But that's all the time we have to look at this.
Hope you know they are building houses.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Depending on where you need their service.
Exactly.
The military is about the best organization you can apply to things
for
like
such
this.
things.
Exactly.
Because of the discipline and what have you.
All right. Colonel Hassan Stan Labo, thank you very much for
Thank you so
coming on the
much.
program this morning.
I
Thank you.
appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Right.